Tonight, Donald Trump is heading to Mar-a-Lago, or as we like to call it, the scene of the crime, because this isn't just another weekend golfing on our dime for Donald Trump. The president is in a state of panic. He knows the release of the Epstein files is imminent. He knows Republicans in Congress are turning on him, and so he is doing whatever he can to delay the inevitable, but it is not working. Even though he's trying, and we saw him try tonight as the press were held back and he ran away as he was rushed away from any questions about Jeffrey Epstein. But it's only making it look that much worse. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into Trump running away from the press as they were held back from any questions, I want to start with what Donald Trump wish he could held back, and that is this imminent vote on the Epstein files that Maxwell Frost shared some breaking news about with regards to his Republican colleagues.
Is locked away right now the next few days with Pam Bondi and all the other cronies trying to figure out what they can do to stop this. The day of the vote, hours before Adelita Grijalva was even sworn in, he was calling members of Congress. He had Lauren Boebert go over to the White House to pressure
Situation
her.
Room.
Right, in the Situation Room. It is a situation for him because he's in the files, right? And so he's pressuring them to try to get them off. So they're going to look, I mean, we're talking about something that is going to implicate some of the richest and most powerful people in this country and perhaps in the world. They will do anything to make sure that they're not involved here. And so I think we might see some shenanigans, but we're going to press on and continue to fight on this.
So let's say, okay, maybe they try to throw some procedural Hail Mary or they, so there's going to be,
I'm not sure it'll work, by the way.
Right. So let's say there's a vote. The next question is, I think I know how you're going to vote. You're going to vote to release the files. What Tim Burchett said there and others, do you anticipate big Republican defections?
I do. Because it comes to a point where, I mean, what Massey said is 100% correct. A lot of these Republican congressmen, they're scareder of Trump than they are of their own constituents, right? And that's why they've been a complete lapdog for him, voted to kick 17 million people off of Medicaid via the big ugly bill and all this other stuff. But it comes to a point where you have to think about the longevity of your career and the fact that a no vote on this is a vote to protect pedophiles. A vote to protect the most powerful people who did the most heinous of crimes, and that will come back to bite them. And not just in the future, now. You'll see protests at their office. You'll see people calling because this is something that Democrats, Republicans, progressives, people on the right, everybody really cares about. And so I think we will see a mass defection. Will it be unanimous? I'm not sure, because there's still going to be people that, even though that's the situation, will still choose to protect Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'm curious to see as it develops is if you do get a vote and it passes, right? Okay, you still need it in the Senate, right, to make this law. And then you would need Donald Trump to sign it, which seems there's no way you're going to sign it. But you do wonder if, watching how much pressure and force this has had to get to this point, whether that does shake things in the Senate. Do you see any world where that happens?
I do. And I put on my organizing hat, right? Number one, we got to fight the fight in front of us, get it through the House. But think about it this way. Every step it goes, there are less people that we have to target and pressure to do the right thing. Once it gets through the House, we go to the Senate, 100 senators. After the Senate, one person, Donald Trump. And what we'll see is that...
Boy, that's a tough veto, man. I mean, I think he'd veto it in a heartbeat, but my God, what a disaster.
Yeah, and you think it's bad right now, right?
Exactly.
I mean, his approvals are tanking right now with both Republicans and Democrats. He's very unpopular. Him vetoing that legislation, I think that will be a breaking point that we see. That'll lead to a lot of other losses for his legislative agenda.
Well, Republicans in Congress aren't just breaking ranks with Donald Trump right now. They are doing it publicly. We have seen more and more Republican members of Congress acknowledge that when this up or down vote comes to the floor of the House and then moves to the Senate, they will be voting yes. And why that's so important to me is the kind of brazen nature of breaking with Trump is something we never see from Republicans. The fact that we are seeing Thomas Massie or Don Bacon, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene do this, and on the Epstein issue, of course, but numerous others, really just shows you how much of a lame duck Donald Trump is. They can smell the stench of defeat on him. It really started last week on Tuesday when Republicans were shellacked across the country because of Trump, but Epstein has really brought it into full view. And so Donald Trump isn't just slinking away again for a golf weekend. It's away from all the problems he faces with his Republicans in the House and in the Senate. And it is why this image that you're about to see will be the lasting one, as Donald Trump's term is essentially ended by Epstein, him running away and the press being held back.
Do you want regime change in Venezuela, sir?
What did Jeffrey Epstein mean when he said you knew about the girls? If the Epstein case is a hoax, why are you calling for more investigations?
After a long day of doing nothing, Donald Trump clearly had enough energy to run away. And this is a obviously physically declining, certainly cognitively declining old man. But Donald Trump saved up just enough energy to get away from the press as quickly as possible. As questions were shouted about Epstein, Donald Trump answered none of them. The silence is very telling, but it's not just him. It is everyone else in this administration who has stayed silent as they try to protect themselves and their future. But there's one person whose silence is especially loud and especially damaging to them, and that is J.D. Vance, who I'm sure also wishes he could run away, but he's been gone. We've heard nothing from J.D. Vance. When he was interviewed last night by Sean Hannity, we got exactly 0 questions about Epstein. There have been no tweets about Epstein. A man who once said on the campaign trail that the files need to come out has said nada. Nothing. And in fact, he's freaking out about his connection to Epstein. And this is really important, so I want you to stick around for this. But Lawrence O'Donnell called out J.D. Vance for not saying anything. We made a video about this. J.D. Vance responded on Twitter, but Lawrence has now clapped back. He is making sure that we all recognize the silence of the vice president, who of course has higher aspirations. What Lawrence said right here is very important. I want to talk about it after, but check out this clip.
Well, the Vice President of the United States has now responded to what I said about him at this hour on this program last night. The breaking news of this hour is that J.D. Vance took to Twitter this evening to respond to an 18-minute video of my comments last night on this program that were posted on Twitter by a viewer. That posting excerpted what I said about the Vice President last night in the tweet and wrote it in the body of the tweet, saying J.D. Vance is doing exactly what Gerald Ford did while the Nixon presidency was sinking and Richard Nixon was under increasing pressure over several months that led to his resignation. When things were the darkest for President Richard Nixon, Vice President Gerald Ford said nothing. Tonight, J.D. Vance is silent. Tonight, J.D. Vance is Gerald Ford. That is an accurate transcription of what I said about J.D. Vance last night. 24 hours later, J.D. Vance speaks. His post on social media in response to that video says, quote, I did 2 media interviews literally today, one of which is airing in a few hours. That tweet was posted around 6 o'clock tonight. He was referring to the Sean Hannity interview with J.D. Vance, and that was presented just in the last hour on Fox. And J.D. Vance was absolutely silent in that interview about Jeffrey Epstein's emails saying that Donald Trump, quote, knew about the girls. J.D. Vance was absolutely silent in that interview about any of the Jeffrey Epstein emails released by the House Oversight Committee. J.D. Vance never said the word Epstein. J.D. Vance never said the words Ghislaine Maxwell. J.D. Vance stayed absolutely silent about the worst challenge his boss is facing tonight. In other words, J.D. Vance is still Gerald Ford tonight.
Are you as obsessed with AI as I am?
I am.
Okay, I don't know. I'm a Grok guy.
Okay. Me too. I'm a Grok guy.
You're a Grok guy. Okay, Elon. I think it's the best.
I think it's the best. It's also the least woke. I'm always asking myself, if I ask an AI a question, is it going to give me an objective answer?
If the vice president puts it in extreme mode,
answer.
Have you put it in extreme mode just for kicks and giggles? It's a little. Well, if you want,
I have not, Sean. I don't want the media to attack.
If you want to know.
That whole interview was for kicks and giggles. It never, ever got more serious than that.
And coming up, more of my exclusive interview with Vice President J.D. Vance. We're going to ask him about the pressures of the job What does he learn from President Trump? And, of course, the question on everyone's mind.
The question on everyone's mind. That was Sean doing a parody of Sean. Of course, he didn't ask the question on everyone's mind about Donald Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Hannity asked if J.D. Vance was going to run for president in 2028, a question J.D. Vance did not answer, but the world knows the answer is yes. Underlying the absurdity of the Hannity interview tonight, Attorney General Pam Bondi was the next guest on the Hannity show, where, of course, the word Epstein was never mentioned.
We know that the one thing that J.D. Vance cares about more than anything else in this entire world is J.D. Vance and the presidential aspirations, which will never come true, of J.D. Vance. And so he thinks it's the smart political move, and he's misreading the situation, to say nothing, to not speak out about Epstein. And in fact, he told a MAGA podcaster, or at least a right-leaning podcaster, because he's now breaking with Trump and Tim Dillon, that everything in the Epstein files needs to be released. So he's trying to privately float that to save himself. Classic Vance, doing one thing in private, another in public. But what Vance doesn't get, and what he is misunderstanding as every other Republican is starting to clock it, it's starting to make sense to them, is that staying with Trump on this issue will sink you. And it is for everyone else. So Vance's silence right now is incredibly loud. We know that he's jockeying. We know that he's angling to keep Donald Trump's support. And then if you ever cross Trump, he will try to destroy you. And so Vance is caught in a place where he needs Trump's endorsement for 2028. But this might be one of the bigger issues talked about in that primary. And every other Republican recognizes that. And whether it's because they're worried about their own constituents turning on them, their voters primarying them, or because a Republican like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Josh Hawley or Ron DeSantis is thinking ahead to 2028, the loudest voices in MAGA right now will be talking about Epstein eventually because they realize where this is going. So either J.D. Vance has to take his beating from Trump and keep him silent, or he has to take his beating from the MAGA base as he refuses to act. So this could really blow up the White House, or it could blow up J.D. Vance, who, I don't know, maybe has a good chance of winning that Republican primary. And if he does, he will carry Epstein baggage that everyone in America is fucking furious about. So that's the situation laid out before J.D. Vance. His silence is going to silence his career, really. And that is a beautiful thing that we will enjoy and cover on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And I've been seeing a lot of y'all do this, but you can follow me if you want to hang out, not just on YouTube, but another platform, on Instagram or Twitter, at JD Cocchiarella, last name spelled Cocchiarella, or you can just copy and paste it from down below. Follow me over there, hang out. Y'all have been sending me a lot of sweet DMs. I'm going to try to respond to all of them. I'm going to respond to all of them because y'all are amazing. Appreciate the support. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.